Really impressive win for the New York Knicks last night at Madison Square Garden against the Philadelphia 76ers. And in the process, the Knicks able to end that 15-game losing streak to Philadelphia. So if you're pumped up about what you saw and how the Knicks played last night, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and let's get into some Knicks news and rumors. Welcome into New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Coming up on today's show, some news and rumors about how Kemba Walker played last night, as well as Evan Fournier, and really this entire organization looking really good a few games into the season. Tom Thibodeau has to be really pumped up about what he's seeing from his basketball team, especially last night against a pretty good Philadelphia 76ers team that, yes, is without Ben Simmons, but is still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, led by a guy in Joel Embiid, who last year finished second in MVP voting behind the Joker of the Denver Nuggets, and the Knicks really able to shut him down last night. Embiid only 14 points on 2 of 7 shooting, didn't look to be himself. Tobias Harris, George Niang had good games for Philly, but for the Knicks, what you're really seeing is a team that is deep, that is talented, and much better offensively than they've been really for a long time, especially since Tom Thibodeau took over as head coach. My biggest takeaway from this win last night, we know that Tom Thibodeau teams are going to play defense, but how about how they played offensively last night and the style in which they played with? A Tibbs team that is going to play lockdown physical defense, but also offensively can get up and down the floor with a little bit of pace, and they were shooting the lights out last night from deep, getting the crowd into it, hitting you with a bunch of different options, chucking some threes, and really, they were a very efficient shooting team from beyond the arc last night. The other big takeaway was just the Knicks' depth. And last year, it was a great year when New York locked down that number 4 seed before losing to the Hawks in the first round of the NBA playoffs. They only able to manage one win in that playoff series, but I think this team is much better than that team last year because of all the moves that they made in NBA free agency. They weren't able to get that quote-unquote marquee star, but they were able to fill out the roster with a bunch of different pieces, and the Knicks' depth last night was on display, and this offense was actually fun instead of slow, sluggish, and monotonous. Tom Thibodeau on the Knicks' depth said this after the game: "What I love about this team is we have great depth. Julius Randle was unbelievable, making plays early. That made us really unselfish. We played hard. Embiid is a load to deal with. Tobias Harris is a load to deal with as well. It's a good, solid win. Now we'll take a hard look at the film. There's a lot of things that we have to correct." And that just goes in line with everything that I'm saying here. There is noticeable more options offensively for this team against some of the other premier teams across the NBA. Speaking of Embiid and his inability to really have a good game, he was shut down by Mitchell Robinson, who really throughout the first few games of the season has looked awesome. And I mean awesome on the defensive end of the floor, and then offensively, he'll be there for put-back layups, put-back dumps. You operate with him in the two-man game so he can throw down some alley-oops, but Mitchell Robinson, he looks big, he looks husky, he looks like a load to deal with defensively, and I think he's going to be a great defensive force at the center spot for this Knicks team. Sixers only able to manage 42 points in the first half. In every game that they had played in up to this point, they scored more than 100 points. Last night, only 99. And I think a great sign for New York, the addition of Kemba Walker. We've been talking about it a lot here on the channel, but he looks quick. He looks to have a little bit of that explosion back. Most importantly, he looks healthy. And if Kemba Walker is healthy, I think this Knicks team can be a top 3, maybe even top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. So if the Knicks were to play the Sixers in a playoff series, given what you saw from New York last night, who do you think would win a playoff series between these two squads? A great rivalry that spans up and down I-95. Type PHI for the Sixers, NYK for the Knicks. Get those votes and those predictions in the comment section right now. New York Knicks Now, presented to you right now thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. You plug in that link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/bet, as well as that promo code CHAT125. You get a 125% deposit bonus. I love betting on football. I love betting on basketball. Really, I'm just a gambling degenerate at times because I like to use all of my takes, thoughts, analysis, and opinions and filter that into my sports bets so I can make a little bit of cheddar. And if you use that link and that promo code, it applies for anybody in any state across America. Now, I know some people are unfamiliar still with how betting odds work, so let's simplify it for you if you do want to lay some lettuce down. Mitchell Robinson right now is at plus 2,500 odds to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. So what that means is if you risk $1 and he ends up winning Defensive Player of the Year, you win $25. One more time, chatsports.com/bet. Enter the promo code CHAT125 for that 125% deposit bonus. Let's look deeper at some of these individual performances from last night. We've already touched on Kemba Walker, but let's lay out the game that he had in front of you. In 28 minutes, 19 points, 7 of 15 shooting, 5 of 11 from deep, and he was able to dish out 5 dimes. I really like Kemba Walker's creation ability, and if Kemba Walker isn't necessarily the athlete that he once was with the Charlotte Hornets, but he can make up for that with being really good from beyond the arc, that kind of makes up for his athletic deficiencies because he's able to kind of stretch his game out to the perimeter. And so far this year, he's been a very efficient shooter, which I think bodes really well for New York. As for Evan Fournier, I've raved about his playmaking potential. That potential has turned into a reality for New York, and you see the benefits of it. 32 minutes last night. I feel like Fournier is going to be a guy who's going to play a bunch of minutes for Tom Thibodeau. If you look at the minutes per game played throughout his career, this has always been a player who's been extremely durable. 18.6 of 10 from the deck, 4 of 6 from deep, 4 assists. So what's the common theme here among a lot of these players? Because they are so deep, the defense, can't focus in on one individual player, which opens up a bunch of open shooting opportunities for a bunch of different guys, and the Knicks can hit you in a variety of ways. That's something that caught the attention of Doc Rivers, who said this about the Knicks last night. Clearly, they're a better offensive team than they were last year because they have more shot makers. They have more playmakers. That's one thing about Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. They're not just scorers. They're playmakers, and the more playmakers you can add to a team, the better. We didn't have any playmakers tonight, and they didn't, partially because New York played really good defense. Lastly, Obi Toppin. I thought my boy Marshall Green, who hosts our New York Giants channel here at Chat Sports, make sure you subscribe to that, youtube.com/NYGiantsTV. He's a diehard New York Knicks fan, diehard New York fan in general, and he made a good point in saying, when I'm watching that game on TNT, I thought as soon as Obi Toppin came into the game, the complexion of the game changed a little bit. And it certainly did, because Obi Toppin is going to bring you a lot of energy, and you saw the fruits of that last night. 9 points in only 12 minutes, but 4 of 7 from the floor, able to contribute defensively with 2 steals and a block. This is a guy who's an uber athlete and a high flyer, which works for you both offensively as well as defensively. And even if he's giving you 12 to 20 productive minutes a night, you know that on both ends of the floor, Obi Toppin's going to be able to chip in. So I just gave you some of my biggest takeaways from this game. Give me your biggest takeaways from the first 4 games for New York as they're off to a 3-1 start. Let me know in the comment section down below. Interact with us. We love when the audience does chime in here at Chat Sports. And thanks for watching New York Knicks Now.